right, cool. Okay, I'm here on episode 2 of the reboot of my podcast, and I'm pleased to be joined by Ben Physick. How you doing, Ben?
Yeah, I'm awesome, Mark. How are you, man?
Good, man. It's been a while since we've chatted, so this is it's quite a privilege. I know you're a busy man.
Well, you've tracked me down, and there's always so much stuff happening, but that's exciting. I love being busy, keeping busy.
Yeah, for sure. So, to the uninitiated, you are the brains behind the group Weight Loss Coaching Works, which I'm actually obviously part of at the moment.
And kicking. Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm under 180, which is pretty amazing. So it's about where I started 4 years ago. So it feels like I'm actually starting to make progress now. So that feels good. So
yeah, a bit of momentum on your side. So yeah, I was going to say, just to the uninitiated, do you want to do a bit of just an introduction to how you started Weight Loss Coaching Works and what even is it, and all that kind of jazz? That would be quite helpful. Yeah, sure. Well, I'm about to enter my 40th year, which kind of really scares you, doesn't it, when you think about it that way? But time goes so fast. But in my early 20s, all I wanted to do, or even my teenage years, was play AFL footy. So that's Australian rules football. So my life was dedicated to that. I realised probably pretty early on that I wasn't going to make it. So I dedicated all my time and effort to business, and loved helping people, loved training people, loved getting people healthy. That's all I knew. So I became a personal trainer. And for about 3 or 4 years, worked it really, really, really hard, but really couldn't get too many outstanding results with people. So then just through the networking life that I have, I guess I connected with a few people that had a superior knowledge to me, and they said, hey, what about you check this out? And anyway, since that day, having associated with a few different people, we came up with a program that simply just worked. And that's exactly what we called it. Weight Loss Coaching Works. We realized that the world needed it. Perhaps we didn't need to be focusing so much on the exercise as much as the food, and then accountability to that. And over the last sort of decade, it's getting to the point now where it's actually getting super, super, super exciting. And I don't lie when I say I bounce out of bed every morning ready to take on the day, because we're so excited with what we've got now.
I believe it. I 100% believe you.
Yeah. Jump out of bed.
So in those early days, when you started the program, what was the feeling like, when you started getting that momentum with people that you were working with, when you're like, oh man, this is actually working, what was that sort of experience for you?
It's addictive. We tell people the program works. So simply, it's so easy. We could even go into it I could explain it in 2 minutes. It's very, very, very simple. But the part that's most incredible is you get addicted to seeing people's lives change. And we've got a saying that we tell people, at a certain point we say, sucked in, you know too much. And the feeling you get of seeing someone like you, Mark, the life transform. We've not yet met face to face, but we've connected probably every day almost for the last 30 odd days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. 30 days down, you're down, I think this morning you're down 18, is that right? 18 kilos? Yeah. So if you're converting that to pounds, that's 37, 8, 9 pounds in 30 days. Isn't that obscene?
Yeah. and admittedly, I haven't been perfect in regards to the system either, so it's pretty amazing. But you do get that, like you say, that focus. And I think for me, I've got my long-term focus of wanting to, help people beyond myself, but then I'm having to rein it in and be like, Mark, slow down, focus on yourself, totally. I have to hit my goal. I just, I feel like I'm getting more resolute sort of every day, and it is addictive. It's amazing, and even some of the conversations I've been having, and, just inspiring, and just, yeah, it is crazy. It's awesome. So,
and we talk about, as you know, is if you're in a plane and they always, in the safety briefing, they always say, put your oxygen mask on first before helping anyone else out. So if you can't help yourself first, then what's the point, really, isn't it? So you have to be a little bit selfish, but it's not really selfish. It's knowing that towards the end of the journey, you'll be more equipped to help someone else when you're stronger and, at your goal.
I think, for sure, it would be helpful to say, just to explain, the way I came into this group as I've been sort of explaining to different people, was a bit unorthodox, which tends to be the way I do everything in life. I never do everything the normal way. It's just, so I connected with you. It's great that we're on a podcast because, it was you and Vandy's, as I call him, David Vanderveen. You guys were on a podcast together, and I listened to that episode and I was blown away. I was like, yeah, I'd already made a decision in January. I mean, if I was to total my weight loss this year, I'm down well over 20, probably 22 or 23 kilos since January.
Yeah.
So I did start making that, that decision on my own. And then I came across the podcast, and then, Vandy's goes, oh, do you want me to connect you to Ben? And I was like, yeah, why not? I'll take all the help. As I said to you on Facebook before he did this, that like Tony Robbins quote I love to throw out, which he says, it's not about, success is not about having the right resources. It's about being resourceful, resourcefulness.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely true. And, so I went to the meeting, meet up with Dean and a few other people, and I was, I mean, immediately it was a no-brainer. There was one thing he threw out, and I suppose, me being from a sales background, you could sort of reduce it to a kind of a salesy kind of pitch line, but it was something along the lines of, you either pay for your health now or you pay for it later.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm sold. Like that was the closer for me. And I made the decision. I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to do this. But, financially, it was a couple of weeks before I could actually make the decision and take the plunge, as it were. And that period was, I think it was healthy for me in a sense, but it was kind of torment because there was a huge part of, and I'm saying this for the sake of anyone listening, because I know there's that real independent part of us that we're like, no, I don't need any help. I want to do it on my own. And, I was sort of, wrestling with that and thinking, oh, I've made a start and, I really would like to do that. But in saying that, I mean, I've never been happier to hand across the cash to join up. It's the best decision I've ever made, like, honestly. And I've made some terrible decisions, but that's another conversation. But no, I think even investing, like, I've heard people talk about the thing of finances and things, like when you actually invest your money into something, your heart kind of wraps around it.
Yeah.
And it is a real psychological and emotional thing as well.
You got some game, haven't you?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Absolutely. And so yeah, I was just like, once I made the decision, I was like, well, I guess I'm doing this, and yeah, it is amazing. And so, but the thing I'm learning along the way is, well, yeah, the program's great and it's awesome. I love the support and the dream team, and maybe you can explain some details about that, but. Ultimately, my success is down to me, and I'm 100% owning that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the cool thing. I think weight loss coaching works for me. Is almost like you guys have just laid down the tracks, and I'm just like, cool. Like, it's just streamlining my goal. So just to anyone that's sort of maybe thinking, oh, I'm tough, I can do it on my own. You have to do it on your own at the end of the day, but having help and having community and support does a lot.
You've nailed it. And the first thing I'll say is you were ready. That's 100% the first thing we try to find people that are 10 out of 10. And if they're not a 10, we try to get them to a 10 pretty quickly by telling them perhaps how dangerous it is to be overweight. And they say being overweight today is more dangerous than being an alcoholic or a drug user or any kind of substance user. So people aren't aware of that. They don't know what they don't know. So I think you were a 10 when you first connected with us, and it was funny because I was in LA at the time and you were in New Zealand. We connected with Dave and then got back to Australia, and so we've not ever yet been in the same country, but we're so connected, aren't we? We can get you information. So I think we pretty much proved to you that it was an incredible program. I think in the early days, belief is the secret, and I think we connected you to it. There's a guy over here in Australia who's lost 100 kilos. He's now down to 107.
Yeah.
And, he sort of perhaps could speak your lingo, and he sort of, I think you and Jason told you that this is the real deal. And it's been a bit of a journey. In fact, I was just looking back through my messages on my phone, and it was around late January that we connected, and then it was probably about 2 or 3 weeks later that we actually got the ball rolling, wasn't it?
Yeah. There was I think about 3 weeks of mental torture. Just but like, I don't know.
By the day when you started, you're well and truly ready. And we say no one gets left behind. So
yeah,
this is not a diet. You'll be on board
with this forever. We'll never stop. You know, once you're in, you stop.
Yeah, and I love, you know, like I say, you and I have really connected, and I feel like you're one of the rare people in my life that have kind of got my personality pretty quickly, and that I appreciate that to no end, to be honest. You know, like, I mean, there was a couple of weeks ago I pitched, you know, sort of an idea to you, and you're like, oh, dude, I've been thinking about that for ages, and we're sort of on the same page. And I was like, you know, and you sort of, I think you used the term visionary, which I kind of have seen myself as. You know, I feel like, you know, I kind of see life kind of 6 months ahead, and I'm like, this is where I'm going, this is my, you know, but I think what's been helpful for me with Weight Loss Coaching Works is the day-to-day grind of it. And that's the thing. And I think that's where I've tripped up in the past. So you know, I've been honest on my podcast about having sort of mental health issues and stuff like that. And I've talked about it. And, you know, it's like, it's all fair and fine to see 6 months ahead, but if you haven't got a game plan for like day to day, then you're going to take a massive leap into like the abyss, and you're not going to have the resources to sort of get there, you know? So that's been pretty amazing. And that was one of the things, like, just to say, like, in hindsight, that I can actually just laugh at, but I found it real frustrating. Like, before I jumped on board, you know, you guys and Julian, who's my head coach, was like, oh, just carb up, you know, before you start. Like, and I was like, why are you telling me this? This is crazy. Like, I'm already trying to lose weight already. Like, I was just like, this is so counterintuitive. Like, but you know, and then I think it was the first day I had a pretty significant loss, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm in, you know, and I think, you know, because of the way I came into it, it has taken me that little bit longer to sort of have that higher trust factor, but I'm there at this point. I'm like, you know, I mean, as we talked about, I'm, you know, looking, you know, I'll say it on the podcast, I'm aiming to hopefully by this month to get myself one of the eSprings, and which is a water purifier. And
all of it, jumping in head first, aren't you, to all of it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know,
I think the big difference, if anyone's ever wondering here where this thing sits in terms of why is it so good, and I'll tell you this, I'll intimately go into detail with you as to why it's so good. It's not about products, it's not about the program, it's not about, you know, whether we've got the most incredible education system or so forth. It's really that genuinely people that are there to help you genuinely care, and they connect with you not every second or third day or every week. It's every day, and it would be sometimes maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. And the way the world works today, it's really easy to connect like-minded people together who are on the same wavelength like we are. And even though we're on different countries right now, we can be connected. And, you know, 5 years ago, it wasn't that way. We couldn't do it. So we were out there trying to find kind of like a needle in a haystack. It was really difficult to connect the right people because it was one-on-one. And these days, you know, we're throwing dozens of people sometimes into these groups to encourage people on their way to their better life. And so if you don't submit to that process, and if you don't open up and like the word vulnerable comes to mind, you're very vulnerable. I mean, you've mentioned you've perhaps had mental health issues, and you're quite open with it. And, you know, guys are probably, they're not trained to deal with that, but they're empathic to it. So they'll relate to you, and will bring people into that room. That, I mean, it's a very, very, very powerful concept, but you've got to be accountable every day. Like John Maxwell says, it's the secret to your success is in your daily routine. And when you can get something on a daily basis, 28 days later, as you are at right now, 30 days, the habits are pretty formed, eh?
Yeah. I remember, just to drive that point stronger, you know, back in the day I used to do like door-to-door direct sales, and we used to watch these videos, like these inspiring kind of clips and stuff. And there was this guy who was an owner of a marketing company in the UK, and you just had these, like, he's talking to his group or his team or whatever, and he's talking about the concept of repetition. And he's like, you know, repetition is the key to this business. Yeah. It's the key to success. He goes, doing the right thing one day is easy. And he goes, doing the right thing every day is what makes this incredibly successful. And I think you could absolutely say the same thing about Weight Loss Coaching Works and what you guys are doing, what I'm doing ultimately as well. And so it's exciting. But
you've changed your habits now. So I'm sure, look, I'll put you under pressure. Did you get up this morning and go for a walk?
Of course I did. I've been for 2 minutes. I've been for
If you didn't go for a walk, you'd feel a bit weird. I mean, but on day 2 or 3, I think was it day 2 or 3? You slept in, or you didn't do a walk or something? Was that?
Oh, I had some silly excuse about I was waiting for some delivery or something. I don't know. I made up some weak excuse.
But now, tomorrow morning, you'll wake up and you'll feel, I want to get the walk going. But it's not yet a real strong, firm habit. It's just you've realigned your habit. So they say, I mean, scientifically, if anyone's listening and they want to know, scientists tell us that it's 63 days is how to form a habit, but you've got to do it every single day. And what we've found is it takes about 9 months to a year for it to become your unconscious competence. You don't even know you're doing it. I think Stephen Covey talks about the 4 levels of learning. You're unconsciously incompetent to the point where you then become unconsciously competent. You don't even know that you're doing it. It's like kind of driving a car, you know. It's like what you're doing right now with your podcast. You're very competent with it. You have no idea how good you are with it. But the average person, if they were doing this, would have no idea, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, there is an example. I mean, I literally, you know, I started my podcast originally in, I think it was June of 2015. And I literally was like, hey, I want to do, because people had said to me, hey, Mark, you should do some kind of radio, blah, 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 you know. And then the whole podcasting thing came along. And so I literally Googled, like, how to start a podcast. And I just found an app. I found some app that I downloaded. And I did a little, like, the first few episodes was just me talking about different things. They're pretty unbearable to listen to going back, but you know, it was fine, you know. But I mean, I am a very articulate person. I have got the gift of the gab, as they say. But then I just started reaching out to people and doing interviews, and it was just amazing. Like people were blown away by, you know, some of the people I was able to connect with was pretty amazing. But yeah, no, it is
quite interesting, Mark, because if I'm looking back now, you mentioned before you started, I think you mentioned the personality. Anyway, we do a personality profile. We check what your personality is. And I look back on it to double check that I wasn't wrong. But you are a melancholy choleric, pretty closely followed by sanguine. But often melancholies, which I am as well, are paralyzed by analysis. The paralysis analysis, which is a weakness. And, you know, at this point in time in the journey, I can see that you've overcome that procrastination problem that typically a lot of melancholies have, which is really good. I mean, thinking about something just causes an issue, isn't it? You just got to get into action and just start. Make a decision. Yeah.
Again, to quote Tony Robbins, he says, "When you get in your head, you're dead." But it's interesting you throw out the word procrastination, and it possibly is a fair word to use. But in regards to weight loss, I just want to throw it out there for people listening. Is I think because it was. I mean, again, you know, Tony Robbins' idea as well with the whole decision thing. He's like, you know that you've made a decision when it's followed by massive action. And it was toward the end of last year, like I knew that I was coming close to making the decision, but I knew I hadn't made it yet. And it was just like, you know, it's kind of funny because it was like January 1st. Like I've never been big on New Year's resolutions, but it was just enough of an excuse to go, hey, why not? I'll try, you know? And so that was where I sort of made the call, and I you know, started walking and doing things. And so, you know, what I'm heading to here is the whole idea of like when you are dealing with health or weight or wanting to make a change, the moment you make a decision, it's not so much procrastination that I found the issue. It's being overwhelmed. Like there's so much, especially in the world of diet and losing weight. Like, you know, as well as I do, there's a million different people trying to pitch you different ideas, like keto diet, this and that and whatever, you know? And so that can be really overwhelming. But I think the key is in I know weight loss coaching works, focuses a lot on it, is really establishing, that why factor and why you're doing this. And you know at the beginning I had to fill out the sheet and talking about my reasons why. And you know, and again, one of the other things I was going to say, you know, I went to that meeting a while ago at the Amway headquarters, whatever, and you know, and I, you know, Dean was running it, and he was like getting people to come up the front and say, you know, talk about, and the next thing I know, he's going, oh, and Mark, you know, and he's calling me up the front, and I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. And I got up and like I mean I'm used to. I grew up, in church and youth group and stuff, so I had lots of experiences of public speaking, and it's not something that I was really bothered with, to be honest. But I hadn't done it for so long, and but that experience was incredible to me because I could feel. I could feel the room. I could feel the inspiration that was there and the energy. And, it was amazing. I had a sort of a brief Facebook conversation with Andy's after that. And I was just like, man, just to, like you say, it goes back to the idea of being addictive because, like I've been having, just with people around me at the moment, just having these really inspirational, like, conversations about things that really matter. And, it's crazy. And I mean, just to mention briefly, obviously, it's, because
that was quite important. Because I heard you talking to Dave Vanderveen about this the other day when you podcasted with him about that moment. That empowering moment is absolutely critical to the journey going forward because you feel, and I don't know what the definition of empowerment is, but I would assume it would mean that people feel as though they are able to contribute and be part of someone else's, making someone else into a better human being. And you genuinely got up there and spoke from the heart. And I think you said it's something like one of the most exhilarating things you've ever done. And I think it was like day 2 or 3. The incredible, I guess, foundations of what we do is, or core values, is empowering other people. And we do it really early on in the process. And it's quite an incredible feeling, isn't it?
Yeah,
well, you mentioned to me as well, this will be a bit out there. I don't know that I've actually even looked at it yet, but your emotional reasons for doing the program, you mentioned that as well. They are pretty critical. This may well bring back some memories.
Hi, I'm Matt Fitzgerald. I'm 36 years old and I'm from New Zealand. My current weight is 197.8 kilograms. My 10-week goal is to lose 38 kilos by the 28th of April. The reasons I'm doing this transformation, number one, I'm tired of being on the sidelines of my own life. Number two, I want to be an inspiration, beginning with me, inspiring myself. And number three, I want to feel like I'm enough. And the ultimate goal is 100.
There you go. Those 3 reasons. I mean, you should go back on those, and you are enough, 100%. There's no doubt about that. And I think you're that now.
Oh, for
You're
sure.
certainly not on the sidelines. You've already achieved that goal. You're out there and, early in the morning, pounding the pavement, and late at night, getting your steps. And you're inspiring other people already. That's pretty incredible, isn't it? In 30 days to have lost, 18 kilos. I think I still can't believe that, but it's true, isn't it? What a journey, buddy. I just wanted to remind you of that because that's you're onto something here.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, thank you for playing that. It's helpful. It's quite amazing. Like I can, even in the tone of my voice at that point, I can sense a change between then and now. I was fairly upbeat when I made that recording and, whatnot, but I just feel literally a weight off my mind, psychologically from that point. I know there's been massive growth and like you say, I can back myself up and say to what you just said before that I am enough and I know I'm on the right path and I know that I'm going to hit my ultimate goal. There's no two ways about that. There's no question in my mind because I'm not going to stop until it's done.
It's quite cool. What is it? The 19th of March today. That was the 18th of February. Say 1 year from now, I didn't get to the point where you talked about your ultimate goal, but what do you see as a visionary? I mean, you said you can look into the future and you can predict what's going to happen, and I'm a similar kind of person. What do you think a year from today, where will you be?
Well, Ben, thanks for putting him on the spot. Allow me to delay my answer while I think about it. No, look, I don't know exactly. I mean, if I keep going down the path I'm on, obviously there's going to be like less of me physically speaking, and hopefully, the experiences I've been having, just naturally sort of meeting people and having these sort of inspirational conversations, and just to say,
have you got some kind of a ultimate goal in mind? I mean, you've got to see it before it happens. Sometimes you've got to visualize that moment before it actually happens. What are you seeing on the scale?
Yeah, that is a tough one, and I'll be honest about that completely because, you know, when you get to as big as I am, I mean, you know, I'm down obviously 18 kilos from where I started, but I mean, even, you know, I look down and I'm just like, I do see some change, but I still, you know, you don't start seeing, and I think that I am still at that place where it's difficult to visualize myself being, you know, fit and healthy. I don't know, maybe I need to get some cutout of some magazine and stick my head on it. I don't know. It's just like whatever works. But yeah, I think you know,
let's put it out to the masses. I've got no doubt whatsoever that this time next year, having seen it before, you'll be in double digits. You'll be under the 100. I mean, I saw you got down to the 170s today, and you started above the 200s or therethereabouts when you first.
Oh yeah, I was 100% over 200 kilos at the beginning.
Yeah, and I mean, this is absolutely. There's a lot of people out there at this level, and I remember it was probably about 13 years ago. I listened to an audio by Paul Zane Pilzer, and he spoke about the wellness revolution and about how it would turn into be $1 trillion industry, and this was like 13 years ago, and he was well and truly correct. And what he also spoke about was obesity and the amount of people that are overweight, and the world doesn't even know how many people are overweight. It's very difficult to get a hold on the statistics, and even when the statistics come out, they're already old. Okay, and they're saying that the world will become 80% overweight. So right now in Australia, I think we're sitting around 63 to 66%, depending on what study you look at. But they're predicting it to hit 80. But what he said back then is we have zero idea the morbidly obese level, and that morbidly obese is, I think it's a BMI of over 40. So, I mean, your BMI would have been well and truly over 40. And these people that are at this level, like yourself, and you're in over 200 kilos, and let's put this out there, that is pretty risky. Is they have almost lost all hope, and they feel like there's nothing that can be done. But I can tell you this, I can guarantee this, I will tell you right now, if they can work the model one day at a time, one step at a time, 1 kilo at a time, one solution at a time, you know what Tony Robbins just said, okay, is they will get there and they will lose 100 kilos. And so we had Jason Oliver lose 100 and so kilos. And then on that day that he came up, we gave him a hat. We gave him a hat and it said number 1 on it because it was the first person to lose 100 kilos. So we decided that we want to find 100 people out there in the world that would lose 100 kilos. And then I think then we can potentially help thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that are at that level, because then they will believe it. It's kind of like when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. I don't know if you've heard that story, the Australian runner. He broke the 4-minute mile. No one else in the world thought it was possible. He literally had dozens of people break the 4-minute mile within months of him breaking it. So I'll tell you this much. If you follow on the journey, you will get down to under 100 kilos, which will mean you'll lose 100 in total. And you wait, mate, how much your life's going to change. Do you believe that?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Sorry, I'm just chewing on a little bit of protein bar. It's about that time. Yeah. So I mean, I think in that regard to saying, you know, that idea of the impossible, I think that's where I find myself resonating with people like yourself and Vandy's, being those entrepreneurial type people, where it's very much the entrepreneur spirit that doesn't, you know, the word impossible is not in our dictionary. You know, we're just like, why? You know, I love that. It's like a reference to Braveheart, you know, he's like, why is that impossible? You know, I love that. That's like my favorite movie ever, by the way. Cool. Well,
what are some of your favorite inspirational movies?
Oh, well, Braveheart for sure. Oh, man, they're all come from like the 90s, and there's nothing recent, to be honest. Everything nowadays is rubbish about that. I used to love, just anything where it's like, just anything, I can't think of titles, to be honest, you put me in the spot, but just anything with passion, like a passionate story, somebody fighting for something, you know, where there's like, I don't know, just, I love it.
Well,
I love all that.
Braveheart, because this morning listening to an audio by Darren Hardy, who I subscribe our team to every morning. He's free and talks about those daily little deliberate decisions, a bit like John Maxwell. And he spoke about Braveheart this morning, in fact. It was quite powerful. Nice. I think I'm going to go back and watch that movie and be inspired by it.
Classic. Yeah, we should catch up sometime and we'll watch it together. get fired up. Well, I think it's probably a good time to wrap up, I guess. Thanks heaps for your time, because I know literally how precious it is. And
mate, absolute pleasure, mate. And already, having listened to your video just then of literally 30 days ago, can hear in your voice more hope. I can actually see more. I can see as though the fog's been lifted somewhat as well. You seem to sort of you have a bit more clarity, perhaps, of where you're going. And I think your body, over an 8-week period, they say there's certain things in your body that totally change. Say your skin, for example, in 8 weeks totally changes. So when you look in the mirror in 4 weeks' time, you're going to see a totally different person. But they say over about a 2-year period, if not less, I'm pretty sure it's less than 2 years. Someone can answer that one, but your whole body changes. Every cell in your body changes. So if you can continue to put healthy food, healthy thinking, healthy water, and just constant and just be consistent, like John Maxwell says, the daily deliberate habits, 2 years' time, your whole body will be different. Your brain will be different. Every hair on your body will be different. But the most important one that we've found over the journey is your thinking. And we talk about the physical change is simply you just losing weight. That's like ice melting. That pretty much water to ice can go backwards and forwards based on the environment that it's in. It's a physical change. But the big change that we want to make in people is the thinking and the chemical, or the chemical change. And that's when you burn paper. Paper goes to ash. It never goes back to paper. And that's when your thinking changes. So I think we've already got the right thinking. I think we've met at the right time. And I don't doubt that it's going to continue to be a pretty incredible journey. You just have to take it one day at a time, don't you? And I'm rapt to be part of your journey, mate. I feel blessed to be a part of your journey, because I think it's going to go down in history as an awesome transformation.
Awesome. Cool, man. All right. Well, thanks heaps. And thanks for listening to people who are listening. Awesome.